Hi, good morning. This is RN Bhaskar from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein has been in the activity of policy analysis, of stories and conversations. BKBB is a newer avatar. Today is our 24th episode, which looks at news, no, not exactly news, but news behind the news. It takes three major headlines and analyzes them. And before we begin, let me remind you, do click the subscribe button, do click the like button, and please tell your friends about it. And yes, one more thing. If you have any questions, send them to us by typing it in the chat box. We'll try to answer at least three of those questions. And we do this because we believe that some issues need to be looked at very seriously. And in today's program, I'm joined by my co-anchors, Katya. Welcome, Katya. And Isha. Welcome, Isha. And the three of us will try to look at what is happening in the country and the world. The three titles that we shall examine today are, of course, the first one has to be Trump's tariffs and what is going to happen. The second one is user charges in international airports. And the third one is about the Supreme Court, which has taken a decision that money can't be spent on building libraries in villages. Why? It explains. A very good reason why. Okay. We come back again to the first headline, which is Trump's tariffs. And for that, I have a chart which I think summarizes a lot of what has been done. Last night, actually yesterday, technically it was April 2nd in America, but that happened last night. Trump declared it as America's Independence Day, saying that he was going to announce tariffs. For those who do not know much about the history of tariffs, Trump's hero is a man called William McKinley, who was the 25th president of America. In the 1890s, he introduced tariffs to protect the sugarcane industry. Normally, any country which imposes tariffs protects an industry which then becomes inefficient and the country dies or goes into recession or goes into depression. America did not go into recession at that time. It made lots of money, partly because of the money that came from tariffs. But there were two other major reasons, and that I've explained in my podcast on Trump and tariffs. Do watch it. The two reasons were that was a time when the Irish and the Italians came in large numbers to America, bringing with them talent and the ability to start new businesses. And so there was a surge in employment and surge in productivity. There was a second accident. That was the time when the gold rush took place. And gold poured into America. The dollar was linked to gold at that time. So the dollar and the reserve soared. And America made heaps of money. But afterwards, when McKinley was assassinated, America tried to reverse the tariffs. They found they could not reverse it because every industry that had been protected wanted that protection. And then I think that was the primary reason that led to the Great Depression, which horrified America in the 1930s. In McKinley's tariffs, it took 30 years for the depression to actually manifest itself. In Trump's case, the depression is likely to manifest itself in less than 2 years, maybe in the first year itself. The markets reacted badly, and it's quite possible that the markets go up, like the markets went up before depression and then crashed. And here the chart shows how the markets went up after the Lehman crisis. That's a chart from Bloomberg. And then when you look at the tariffs that Trump has put in, he has put in a 10% across the board tariff for all products, all countries. Earlier, under the WTO, poor countries had special quotas by which they could export, duty-free. Now it's a small country, poor, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, like Bangladesh, which exports textiles. Those benefits are gone in that 10% tariff. The poor will become poorer, and that's bad for the world. The rich, it does not matter, they can do anything. But there were special tariffs, and he singled out the EU for a 20% tariff, China for 34% tariff. Effectively, these countries will suffer enormously, or they'll find new markets to go to. As we talked about in this channel just a few days ago, America does not make small cars. It only considers the big cars. All the small cars are imported. Now with the 25% tariff on automobiles, and that's another subject, you'll find that the small man, the middle class man in America will have to pay more for cars. And by putting a tariff again on pharmaceuticals, which not been mentioned in any of the papers yesterday, but Trump had mentioned it earlier, you will make the cost of medicines even higher. So, and aluminium, 25% tariff means automobile, it's an input for aluminium for automobiles, and for steel input for automobiles in America are going to become expensive in a country where there's no public transport, no great public transport. The small man and the middle man are going to scream within a short time. What about India? Well, the chart on the extreme left tells you everything. We used to export more to the US, then less, then less. Why? Because the US doesn't want what India produces, either because they're not the right quality or they're not the right price. And now the government has gone and promised Trump that it'll increase the trade volumes to $500 billion, which means you're going to import the rest and bankrupt India. There is trouble ahead for India in two ways. When the tariffs are imposed, India will not be able to export much. Our exports will go down even further. And by importing more from America, your deficit will grow larger, even larger than what it is today. We have a double whammy coming our way. What will happen, I don't know. But the world is waiting. As I mentioned in these columns just about a few days ago, two countries, Denmark and Canada, have decided to retaliate. Canada will put duty on electricity, which means all the North American units will get cheap electricity, especially the automobile industries in the North, will now find electricity very expensive. Both Canada and Denmark have boycotted US goods. Other countries are likely to follow suit. For the first time, Korea, Japan, who are die-hard loyalists of America, have joined hands with China to find a common platform. The world is changing. Geopolitics is changing. It will not be the same again. And that is my long explanation for something that happened yesterday. But it is important to know that things are going to be turbulent henceforth. The markets are going to be choppy. The investment climate is going to be dirty. Okay, we go to the second story. And the second story is by Katya, where she's going to talk about airports.
So, staying on the topic of levying charges, Delhi airport has taken a very interesting turn. It's increasing, it's having differential UDF. UDF is user development fee for international passengers only. This is for business class, and a different one for economy class. Now, differential pricing is something which is apparently against the rules according to industry body IATA. But for now, they have got an approval to levy this fee in this manner. And but the government is the airport aviation regulator has said no for these similar differential UDFs for domestic passengers. So at least a large part of us are safe for now. It's only for international passengers. Now, why is this UDF important? UDF is also important because as we all know, airports and a lot of infrastructure projects are taking large capital investments, and recovery is slow and fleeting, and they have to take as much, and aviation as a business in general, you have to take as much advantage of it when the economy is moving in the right manner. Now, but while IATA has its issues, it says that it's against the rules because differential pricing is not it's discriminatory, etc., etc. But private operators, other private operators, have actually supported the move of DL. They said it's a very good idea, and then a lot of countries, lot of airports across countries like Changi Airport, etc., have differential pricing for different peak hours, etc. And this is going to be a good move. So what do you think, Bhaskar sir? Do you actually think, business class passengers pay a tad more so that our infrastructure stays in place? And also, non-airport revenue might be in doldrums because the economy is moving sideways. We don't know how much of purchasing would happen, etc. So, can I have your opinion?
Well, in short, there are two things. All differential pricing is bad.
Hmm.
At a time when other airports are making things duty free,
Hmm.
even visa free,
Hmm.
increasing charges at airports will make India a less attractive destination for tourism, and the income of tourism is bigger than the income that we get for user charges.
Hmm.
Three, the best way to get user charges is to increase traffic at airports so that airports get more money.
Hmm.
But that's a government's responsibility. The airlines can't do anything about it. So the ball goes back in the government's court, where the government has to make it viable for airports by creating conditions where more foreigners come in. And dual tariffs is a dangerous thing. We tried to do hotels where every foreigner had to pay a higher price than
Hmm.
Indians. And we know the kind of resentment that was there in foreigners.
Hmm.
You're going to have the same resentment now. It's a dangerous move. But you're right. Thanks. Can we have the third story? And that's Isha.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'm going to be bringing you a story from the Hindu titled Ensure Education, Hygiene, Healthcare in Rural Areas, Supreme Court. So, while hearing a petition filed by the Mundona Rural Development Foundation to direct states to set up at least one public library in every village, an SC bench headed by Justice Suryakant made an oral observation remarking that ensuring hygiene, education, and healthcare has to be a priority in rural India. In rejecting the plea, the bench stated that 10 to 15% of budgetary allocations must go towards improving basic rural infrastructure. While Justice Kant acknowledges the importance of libraries, he asks, does a person who is starving go to a library? In a country where there are leaps of progress yet to be made in improving fundamental markers of development, such as hygiene, education, and healthcare, states often quote financial constraints to justify poor progress. In such a case, funding for basic rural infrastructure must be priority over a library. The court said that it would be left to the wisdom of the policymakers in the government as to which is best to prioritize public libraries or basic infrastructures in rural areas. Closing the petition, the bench urges the state to take on measures within the limits of their resources, including the promotion of e libraries and better collaboration with private companies for the utilization of corporate social responsibility funding. In the age of the internet, when kids are reading lesser and lesser, access to literature can be digitized, not only reducing infrastructural costs but also considerably increasing accessibility, as it could even be through a centralized portal or a private digital library that might already even exist. Instead, maybe the government should focus on increasing internet connectivity and installing computers in rural schools, a move that would significantly contribute towards the betterment of the quality of education and the access to literature of our country. I think this is a very interesting story. It puts a lot of things into perspective. But that's all from my side. Thank you for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, sir.
Thank you, Isha, for raising a very, very vital point in India. And the vital point in India is basically this: should you spend money on doing things when your basic requirements are not met? You have 50% of India's government schools not even having internet. You have another 50% of government schools not having even the basic laboratory. Shouldn't you do that first? Schooling is a constitutional requirement. Everything else is secondary. You need to first provide roads, drinking water, health, hygiene, and then only can you go in for others. The Supreme Court is right. It's unfortunate that the courts have to tell legislators what their primary responsibility should be. Looks like legislators like to spend money without thinking of priorities. Okay, that finishes our 3 stories for today. And yes, do click the subscribe button, do click the like button, and please tell your friends about it, about this channel. We would like to have a larger audience with us all the time. And again, lastly, send in questions. We'd like to look at it. The first question that I can see is, will there be a recession in the US? Will it affect India? In all likelihood, there will be a recession. A month ago, the fears of recession were around 15%. A week ago, it was 34%. And today, it's over 50%. We think a recession is coming. Protection of industries always results in recessions. How will it affect India? Well, when the markets go down, India goes down too, because India depends and nobody is insulated. Now, there's a second question which has come in. What should the alternative to airport user charges be? The alternative is simple. The government has to make India more attractive so the number of tourists keep coming in, and so that you don't have to spend money out of a special tax on tourists. You have to make tourism attractive. Government's job, which is abdicated for a long time. And there's a third question. Shouldn't there be a way of penalizing states for deficiency in basic infrastructure needs in villages? Yes, there should be a way of penalizing it. This was what was mooted in the Finance Commission. But you have legislators who managed to remove the clause about fiscal responsibility, about how money was spent. Those clauses were removed. When you have legislators that do not want to be accountable, what can you do? That brings me to the end of today's podcast. And yes, thank you for being with us. Do tell your friends about us. And see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day today. Take care.